Zillow is really fun to use, but is that all it really is? I'm Stephen Michalakos, and these are my Thursday Thoughts. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the show. This week on Thursday Thoughts, we talk about third-party websites and home evaluations and why agents are still important. And no matter if you're Zillow file or you like Julia, or you even say, well, Stephen, hey, you're a realtor. I use realtor.com. That must be like the creme de la creme. They're all just about the same. They're all third-party sites that feed off of what I put into our database, which is the MLS. And these sites are super fun, only because the information is super expedient. It's quick. It's to the point. I mean, I've seen plenty of people do it where they'll pull it up and just be really curious about, well, what do things usually go for in this neighborhood? Or, oh, my neighbor's house just went up. Instead of calling the sign, let me just pop it up on my phone. I can figure out that information right now, right? It really is a gratifying service, no matter if you're using any of these third-party websites, right? The information is there. They'll generally have, what the property sold for last and what other properties are currently going for if they're not under contract yet, right? And the point is, it's not that you're not allowed to use Zillow or Realtor.com or Trulia. In fact, I think they're pretty good. I think they're great at, being able to take little data points from what is our mothership of data on the MLS and just throw it out there, casually speaking, for everybody to look at. And as somebody who lists homes for people, that's exactly what I want. I want more exposure. I want more people to look at it. But really, at the end of the day, after all of that looking, we're just looking at Zillow, right? I've done it myself. If I've gone to California or something, and I have no idea what the market is like out in California or why it's so nuts. But I pull up a quick Zillow app and whatnot, and I'm just like, all right, let me just see what these people are even asking for properties like this. I look at it, and then I put it back in my pocket, and I never think about Zillow ever again. And that's the continuing motif, right? As consumers, if you're looking to buy a house, we don't really care about all the minutia that goes into staging up and becoming a good, qualified buyer. We just want to touch and feel product, right? Like, we want to see what this house looks like and what we would change about the kitchen and if it has a pool. And Zillow is great for that. It's for getting the creative juices flowing. You want to see, what the house down the street actually sold for, or what else is maybe going around your neighborhood and what's coming up for sale, what property values are really looking like. I get that, but at the end of the day, it's truly for window shoppers. And if you're sitting there and you're like, I'm not really convinced it's just for window shoppers, I think it's a good tool, their data is great, but it's delayed, right? And as we said last week in Thursday Thoughts, the expediency of the market is not a secret, okay? So if I go ahead and put a listing into my MLS for the rest of my realtors and everybody else's buyers and whatnot to look at on their portal, which I recommend using, it might take 2 or 3 days to get to Zillow. So even on the back end of it, from my perspective and all the rest of my colleagues that use the MLS, it's just not a good syndication tool, right? If you're trying to be ahead of the market. And for the agents that buy into it and they pay Zillow money to, be their premier agents or whatever else have you, they're really just using Zillow as a lead, right? So that product that you want to touch and feel, and you want to criticize the kitchen and see if there's a pool, right? That same product, they're dangling it overhead of you to say, come and grab it. And as you grasp for it, and as you put your phone number in and your email and everything, by the time you do all that and they route you to somebody and you get an agent and they talk to you about what you're looking for, it's gone. It's gone. So it's not to say, hey, don't use this website because it's bad. It's not bad, but we have to understand when it's appropriate to use it, right? So if you're just looking at getting started, if you really want to see what I call is your purchasing power, to say, okay, well, homes are a little bit cheaper, or they're going for less money in this area. This might be a good place to find a starter home. Or I'm very, much well off, and I want something with a water, water view or boat access or anything like that. You're going to use a little map tool to zoom in on the map where there's water and pull up what all the asking prices are or the recent sold values are. That's a great way to start, because you can manage your expectations when you're entering the market and saying, hey, based on what I've seen over here, I can pretty much, think that I could fit into the realm of a 3-bedroom, 2-bath house in a gated community because I needed an intermediary home in this school. And based on what I've seen on Zillow, a lot of these homes that are selling around here, I can afford that. It's a good way to get the juices in your head stirring a little bit, and to tease that idea of not just dangling product in front of you, but to say, hey, this is a real possibility. Once you realize in your life that there's a decisive shift or there's a new necessity, it calls upon that action of like, okay, well, what's the solution and what's next? Zillow is a great catalyst for determining what that next solution is or that next step is. And I know there are some people that are listening to this and they're thinking, well, what about a Zestimate? That seems, pretty important to me. I think, everybody should know what their home value is, right? That's a great tool that site has. And it is. It's a really, really great tool. You type in your address, it pulls up your house, pictures of it before you even bought it, if that's kind of creepy. And then it tells you what the estimate is for your home now, right? Great tool. Here's the problem. It's stupidly wrong. And the reason why it's wrong is because it takes all of these other data points that you're looking at to perceive that purchasing power of like, okay, well, here's a 3.2, and it's totally updated, right? And then here's a 3.2, and it's not updated at all, and all these different data points. And Zillow throws them into an algorithm, mixes it up like a bowl of scrambled eggs, and just like vomits out this random number that they kind of hope is in the ballpark, right? And before I get super high and mighty on Zestimates, my website does the same thing, okay? You can go to propertiesbysteven.com. Here's the shameless plug. You can type in your home address and everything like that, and it'll spit out a whole set of data points, different reports on your neighborhood, and it'll try to give you a good range of like what your home might be worth. But the problem with that is it's still just an algorithm. The benefit of that is that it still comes straight to a living person like me, and I massage all those data points and try to figure out what drove the sale of this one versus that data point versus this, recently sold comp versus what, and I can discern for myself based on what I've seen within the market, truly what my, at that point, opinion would be on what this could sell for at market value. So the fail safe in at least my model is that no matter what address you enter in, I'm going to have my greasy little realtor fingers all over it and try to see how much this is really, really worth. So to rely on just a Zestimate alone is you're doing yourself a great disservice. If you're truly interested in finding out more about home values or anything like that, consult your realtor, your local realtor, or you could even ask me. And that is what leads us into this week's Thursday Thought, right? So when is it okay, or when do I, a realtor, feel comfortable in advising somebody to use these third-party sites? And the answer is only in the beginning, before they've met me. Okay, so if they're just sitting on the couch one day, and you're like, oh man, it would be cool if we could move, but I don't really know what anything goes for these days. That's a great way to like start getting going, I guess. But from there, I mean, you have to do your due diligence. Calling the first person that shows up on Zillow as a premier agent or whatever, they're just the highest bidder on your information. That doesn't mean that they're better or worse in any category. So look at somebody that you might think would do a great job on negotiating a contract or filling you in on market statistics before we really get into the thick of touching and feeling that product. So Zillow is really only used for window shopping. That's okay. Window shopping is important. Home valuations should not be relied upon by third-party websites unless you know for a fact it's going to go to an agent where they can really dissect the data and give you a true possible figure so you can weigh your options. So while Zillow is still super, super fun, and I don't blame you for using it, please remember, when it's time to get serious, It's time to get an agent. All right, and that'll do it for this week's Thursday Thoughts. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Be sure to leave a like or a comment down below. Be sure to tune in next week as well as we talk about some really important questions to ask while interviewing your realtor. Yes, you should interview your realtor. Until then, have a great weekend. See you then.